Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktarindam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naranchaivam Narottamam Devyam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Shrinvata Swagata Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtanaha Vidyantasto hi Abhadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam. Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shlokir Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 8. Dhruva Maharaj leaves home, text 31 and 32. I think 32 is on the sheet, so I will just read text 31 first. Munaya padavim yasya nisange noru janmabi na vidurmikayantopi tivra yoga samhadina. Translation. Narada Muni continued, after trying this process for many, many births and remaining unattached to material contamination, placing themselves continually in trance and executing many types of austerities, many mystic yogis were unable to find the end of the path of God realization. Text 32. Ato nivartatam esha nirbhandas tava nashpalaha yatishyati bhavan kale shreyasam samupastite ato nirvatatam esha nirmandastava nishpalaha yatishyati bhavan kale shreyasam samupastite ato nirvatatam esha nirbhandastava nashpalaha yatishyati bhavan kale shreyasam samupastite ato nivartatam esha nirbhandastava nashpalaha yatishyati bhavan kale shreyasam samupastite. Samupastite ato nirvatatam esha nirbandastava nishpalaha yatishyati bhavan kale shreyasam samupastite ato nirvatatam esha nirbandastava nishpalaha yatishyati bhavan kale shreyasam samupastite ato nirvatatam hesha nirbandhastava nishpalaha yatishyati bhavan kale shreyasam samupastite ato nirvatatam esha nirbandhastava nishpalaha yatishyati bhavan kale shreyasam samupastite ata hereafter nirvatatam just stop yourself esha this nirbandhaha determination tava your nishpalaha without any result yatishyati in the future you should try bhavan yourself kale in due course of time shreyasam opportunities samupastite being present. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Translation. For this reason, my dear boy, you should not endeavor for this. It will not be successful. It is better that you go home. When you are grown up by the mercy of the Lord, you will get a chance for these mystic performances. At that time, you may execute this function. Please repeat. For this reason, my dear boy, you should not endeavor for this. It will not be successful. It is better that you go home. When you are grown up, by the mercy of the Lord, you will get a chance for these mystic performances. At that time, you may execute this function. Purport. Generally, a thoroughly trained person takes to spiritual perfection at the end of his life. According to the Vedic system, therefore, life is divided into 4 stages. In the beginning, one becomes a brahmachari, a student who studies Vedic knowledge under the authoritative guidance of a spiritual master. He then becomes a householder and executes household duties according to the Vedic process. Then the householder becomes a vanaprashta, and gradually, when he is mature, he renounces household life and vanaprashta life also and takes the sannyas, completely devoting himself to devotional service. Generally, people think that childhood is meant for enjoying life by engaging oneself in sports and play. Youth is meant for enjoying the company of young girls, and when one becomes old at the time of death, then he may try to execute devotional service or mystic yoga process. But this conclusion is not for devotees who are actually serious. The great sage Narada is instructing Dhruva Maharaj just to test him. Actually, the direct order is that from any point of life, one should begin rendering devotional service. But it is the duty of the spiritual master to test the disciple to see how seriously he desires to execute devotional service. Then he may be initiated. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Mena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dheena Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you for this opportunity of service. Before I begin, as always, I humbly ask all the Vaishnavas to please bless me, that I may speak something that is in line with what Srila Prabhupada is presenting, as well as pleasing to the devotees' ears and hearts. So, we're reading text 31 and 32, and Narada and Dhruva are still in their discussion, and Narada is trying to discourage him, supposedly. He's just testing him out, seeing how serious he is. And he's presenting in text 31 that, see, Dhruva, see the futility, of the Ashtanga Yoga process, that many people who are much, much older, much, much more mature than you, have spent thousands of years trying to see the Lord, but they don't see the end of God realization. They don't reach any conclusion. Look at this. And we understand Krishna presents in Bhagavad Gita the process of Ashtanga Yoga. So of course it's a very mystic process. So one has to leave home firstly, and then one has to go to the forest. Already, 2 red flags. Who wants to leave home? Like in this day, no. Who wants to leave home? And then you have to find a forest, okay? In Kali Yuga, where exactly are you going to find a forest? Thanks to urbanization, forests are becoming smaller and smaller and smaller, and the forests are not very safe as well. But then also the process of going to the forest, exploring nature in Kali Yuga, that's turned into a business. It's a business venture, right? You can go in some, I guess maybe not here, but in other countries, you pay a large amount of money and, you go trekking through the uncharted forests, find the lakes, find the rivers, go foraging for this and that. But even then, that's not an austerity because, you're paying all of this money, and wherever you're staying in the forest, there's a nice cottage, there's running water, there's, food and shelter and all of these things. So that, defeats the whole purpose of Ashtanga Yoga. But we understand from Srila Prabhupada's teachings that, bhakti is meant to be joyfully performed. And you're not required to do severe austerities. Text 31 uses the word Tivra Yoga, severe austerities. That is not for the devotee. That is not the path for us. I think Ram Govinda Swami often says that if you're doing something that causes a lot of harm or disturbance to the body, that is physically very painful and very taxing, that is not meant for devotees. Devotees shouldn't do that. That is actually for demons. Because they're so, they're hard-hearted and they're so contaminated. They need some very severe sort of austerity to try and get them, on the path, at least of God realization in some way. So severe austerity is not for the devotee, because also Krishna doesn't like it when a devotee is put into pain, into anxiety, into frustration in this way. That's not what he wants, ultimately. Bhakti is about joyfully and enthusiastically performing devotional service. And there's a song, I think Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes, I think it's Gai Gaura Madhuswari, but there's a line in one of the songs where he says, Grihe Thakur, Vanya Thakur, Sada Hari Bole Thakur. So it doesn't matter, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, whether you're in the home, whether you're in the forest, whatever your ashram is, whatever your varna is, you just have to chant the holy name of the Lord. That's the one and only thing that you have to do in this age of Kali Yuga. There's, as we know, Kalo Nasteva, 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 Gatir Anyata. There is no other way for us but to chant the holy name of the Lord. So we know from the Bhagavad Gita that when a soul, performs Ashtanga Yoga in the correct way, in the appropriate way, it would give one mystic perfection, the siddhis, along the way that you get it. But these siddhis, these mystic perfections, they can become distractions for the practitioner along the way. Becoming bigger than the biggest, smaller than the smallest, traveling with the speed of the mind, manifesting, anything you want by the will of your mind. These can become distractions. And that is why a devotee is not interested. Anything other than 100% remembering Krishna is not worth it at the end of the day. And when we study or we read the nectar of devotion, Krishna will not very easily give one pure devotional service. Why? Because he knows that is the one thing that can fully purchase him. So he's also not just going to give it away, willy-nilly, that anyone can just get pure devotional service and purchase him in this way. But the devotee is sincere and enthusiastic in their practice. Why? Because we know from Bhagavad Gita that whatever work we do whatever general work we do should lead us to a spiritual or religious life, ultimately. And a spiritual or religious life or activities should lead you to material renunciation. But what is the point of material renunciation? That is the lotus feet of Krishna. That renounce everything material that has nothing to do with Krishna and remembrance of Krishna. We see, if you look at like Western religion or spirituality, they are very, what's the word? Either or. Like you believe in this or you go to hell. It's X or Y. It's not X and Y. You can't believe in this and that. No, it's one or the other. But bhakti, the process of bhakti is very different. It's about and. We know there's the process of Sankhya Yoga, there's Jnana Yoga, there's Ashtanga Yoga. There are all ladders on the path of God realization, and obviously the highest is bhakti. And we know in the 12th chapter of the Gita, Krishna says, it's all about devotional service. So yeah, think of me, and you can think of me, and you can work for me, and you can engage in devotional service for me. So it's and this, and that, and that. So why is bhakti the highest process of God realization? Because it brings you to Him, and it is the most superior because it is the most inclusive process. There are no hard and fast rules for chanting Hare Krishna and practicing bhakti. You can think of me, and you can work for me, and you can engage in service for me, and you can share this process with others, and. So, the first canto of the Bhagavatam also highlights the supremacy of the process of devotional service, of bhakti. I forget the chapter, but in the first canto, it is said that if devotional service, if bhakti is there, then automatically Gyan and Vairagya, automatically knowledge will come, automatically renunciation will come, if it is done in the proper, sincere and enthusiastic way. And that is the point of what we're doing in this world. That is the point of Bhakti Yoga, that Prabhupada is speaking about the different ashrams and how they, lead one from one path to another in different stages of life. But the point of Varnashram is to lead you to bhakti. The point of, we know as human beings in this world, the Bhagavatam says we engage in dharma, artha, kama and moksha. The point of that engagement is to come to devotional service. Dharma is your purpose. Dharma, your purpose for everyone is different. Your purpose should lead you to Krishna. Your artha, or how you create your wealth, should lead you to Krishna. Kama, well, in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada defines kama as sex desire, but it's also your ambition or your material satisfaction. It should lead you to Krishna. And moksha, your liberation, should lead you to Krishna. That is the point of everything. And we understand from this that we're constantly engaged in something in the world. We're never going to be desireless, just completely free from desire. But what we do have in this human form of life, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Krishna. What we do have in this human form of life is we can direct our desires where we want. So we have to use our power to inquire about the absolute truth. Bhakti is an all-inclusive process. It doesn't reject other forms like jnana and Ashtanga yoga. It says, no, these are all stepping stones. But here's something, why would you take the stepping stones when you can take the elevator? Why would you go 1 step, 2 step, 3, when you can just shoot to the right, the penthouse? This is the path of bhakti. Here it is the easiest and it is the highest thing to do. And ultimately everything must culminate in devotional service. So we have this power to choose our desires and to choose our path. Prabhupada speaks about there are 2 paths, Pavritti Marg and Nivritti Marg. Pavritti, the path of attachment, sense gratification, or Nivritti, the path of devotional service. So you have the power to choose which path you walk on. But a devotee who is correctly situated, they understand that, I can have all opulences in the world and I can still be detached. Why? Because I know that all of this that I have is not mine. It belongs to Krishna and Krishna alone. He has given it to me and he can take it away. The example is given of the servant of a king. The servant can live in the palace and the servant can enjoy some of the opulences of the king. He can have a nice, comfortable room. He can have a good meal. He can have nice clothes. He can have all of this opulence because of the king. But he can have this so long as he doesn't think he's the king. If, he starts thinking he's the king and he gets, the wrong understanding, this is going to be taken away. That's not his position. That's not his situation. So we have to understand what is our situation, actually. And also, why is the process of bhakti higher than jnana and ashtanga and all of these other processes? Jnana or knowledge, sometimes, if it's not done in the proper way, if it's not cultivated in the proper way, it hardens the heart. Now, firstly, we know that a devotional life is compared to a creeper. There's a creeper of devotional service in our heart that grows and blooms, the Bhakti Lata Bij. Now, obviously, if your heart is hot, what plant is going to grow in hard soil? Like nothing. Is a weed maybe, but not even that. So, jnana, if it's not cultivated in the correct way, hardens the heart. Why? Because we know that when you want to engage in analysis and rationality, there's no space for emotions. Emotions often cloud your analytical ability. But bhakti is about emotions. It's about serving the Lord with some feeling. And once your emotions are suppressed and switched off, it's hard to develop them for bhakti and devotional service. We know that. We're practicing this path sometimes for many, many years, and we still find ourselves a little hard-hearted at times. So it's very hard to undo this. But again, everything has its place in devotional service, that you can cultivate jnana or knowledge in a way that leads to the understanding that I am the servant of Krishna. This is the jnana or the knowledge we should focus on cultivating. And in this case, this type of intellectual analysis will strengthen your conviction in bhakti. It will give you a strong foundation for your spiritual life. We know that the Vaishnav has many qualities, and one of them is that they are expert. So a Vaishnav becomes expert in understanding the scripture in a way that establishes an understanding that stabilizes my bhakti. The second verse of the Sad Goswami Astakam, Nana Shastra Vicharane Kanipano Madharma Samstapako, that the 6 Goswamis, they spent their time carefully analyzing the Shastras, understanding, expanding on the Shastras. Why? So that here is something that other devotees can use as a foundation for their spiritual life. This will show the Shastric basis of bhakti, that it's not just sentiment and emotion and nothing else, but actually it has a strong foundation. So this type of jnana or knowledge will enhance our appreciation for the glories of Krishna. Our acharyas have written so many books on the glories of the Lord. They are all very intellectual and based very heavily in scripture. So a devotee will keep on enhancing their knowledge because they know, they have the correct understanding that Krishna is unlimited, so there are unlimited ways to know him. And the Shastra helps us in this way. Because we're all in this world, we all want freedom, we all want liberation. We don't want to be bound or limited in ways that restrict us. But then, we go through experiences and Krishna may come and he may do something that, seemingly makes the situation worse. The story of, or the pastime of Durvasa Muni and the Pandavas, that Duryodhana sent Durvasa Muni. And he said, I would appreciate it if you'd go to the Pandavas and accept prasadam from them, but please only go at a certain time. So obviously, the certain time that he went was after Draupadi had eaten her meal. And she had the Akshaya Patra, the pot that gave, a never-ending supply of food until she ate. And then after that, it wouldn't give for the next day. So he went and he asked, but she had eaten already, so she's in the situation, what do I do? And then they called out to Krishna and he came and he said, well, I'll help you, but just wait a second, I'm really hungry. Can you feed me? Now, it seems like Krishna is rubbing salt in the Pandavas' wounds. Like Draupadi is saying, but I've eaten already. I can't feed you. Why are you asking me for this, Krishna? He says, no, it's fine. Just show me that pot. And he finds, this tiny little half grain of rice stuck there. Now, you would think this is Draupadi's mistake, that she didn't clean the pot properly. It's just one pot to wash. How hard can it be, Draupadi, to wash this pot? But her seeming mistake satisfied Krishna, and thereby satisfied Durvasa Muni. So we can dwell in the mistakes that we make and we can just be agitated, or we can dwell in Krishna and be peaceful. So Draupadi is faced with a dilemma, but she chooses to dwell in Krishna. So we have to be open to what comes from Krishna, and we have to let Krishna do good through whatever comes, even though it may seemingly look like a mistake. And in text 32, Narada is telling Dhruva that, if you're still bothered by what happened, but, do it when you're older. If when you are older and what happened to you, but, your stepmother's words still trouble you, then you can do something, not now. Narada is testing to see, is Dhruva actually serious about what he's going to undertake? Because this is no small feat to find the Supreme Personality of Godhead and to ask for a kingdom that is bigger than my great-grandfather's. Dhruva is young. Dhruva is 5 years old. And we know that for a 5-year-old boy, the best thing in the world is to be with other 5-year-old boys. Because kids just want to have fun. And Narada knows that, Dhruva, what you're thinking of doing is not fun in any way. It's not fun. So are you actually serious about what you want to do? Prabhupada mentions in the purport about the 4 ashrams, brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas, and how a person gradually moves through all of them, through their phase of life. And in general, why is this the Vedic way? Because one equips you for the other. When we start off in the brahmachari ashram, we learn sense control, we learn sensitivity, we learn how to deal with others. And then naturally, when you have all of these skills, you want a companion on the path, and that's why you enter the grihastha ashram. But why is it important to be in the brahmachari ashram first? Because then you are well trained and equipped on how to deal with another person. You can be sensitive, you can control your senses. You know how to be compassionate and kind and appropriately serve someone else. If you learn sense control in the brahmachari ashram, you won't see your partner as an object for your enjoyment. You will understand that this is a spirit soul, a part and parcel of Krishna, and I will respect and treat them as such. That is the foundation. Because why do we move gradually from one stage to the other properly? Because again, there are desires at every stage of life. And only through proper training and guidance can our desires be supported appropriately in some way. But, of course, we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be honest about our desires and honest about our conditioning. Just beating yourself up because you have desire for companionship isn't going to help anyone. You'd rather be honest and practice your Krishna consciousness peacefully with someone. And in this way, gradually make advancement. But in the second paragraph of this chapter, Srila Prabhupada says that actually this is not the way of bhakti. That those who are serious about spiritual life, they won't wait until the end of their life to start practicing. They will do it now. What is the opening line of the Vedanta Sutra? Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Now is the time to inquire about the absolute truth. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, not later on today. Now is the time. And we know from the first canto of the Bhagavatam, we learn of the pastime of Narada Muni and his own birth and his own upbringing. Narada Muni had somewhat of, not a similar experience, but an experience as well, that when he was 5 years old, he was the son of a maidservant. And when he was 5 years old, Narada Muni met the Mahabhagavatas. And they spent 4 months, the Chaturmasya period, in his house, and he learned and he heard from them every single day. And he learned the process of devotional service. And after this, by the will of the Lord, his mother died. He was a 5-year-old boy, his mother died. He didn't stay in his house and lament and cry. No, he was properly situated, so he went and he decided to find the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Narada is testing Dhruva, that will you actually go through with this? This is a really big thing. It's not an easy thing. Will you go through with this? And we see, yes, Dhruva will become the disciple of Narada Muni. But Narada is checking, Dhruva, are you ready to listen? Are you ready to follow? Because this relationship will only work, the guru-disciple relationship will only work if the disciple is serious enough. The guru will instruct, a genuine guru will instruct, and a disciple should be ready to follow, and they must follow the instruction of a genuine spiritual master. Because if they do not follow the instructions they are given, then the relationship is spoiled. And also, if a disciple cannot follow the instruction of a genuine spiritual master, then that is aparad, that is an offense, that you have made a commitment and a vow to follow and you're not following. So to avoid all of this down the line, Narada is testing him now that, are you sure you will do this before I give you an instruction? Because once I give an instruction, you have an obligation to fulfill this instruction because you have surrendered. So before we go down all of this and we realize this is not the path for you, tell me now, are you serious about spiritual life? Do you have... Narada is testing, does Dhruva have the capacity? Does Dhruva have the taste for this? And in spiritual life, we will have the capacity, we will have the taste if we are in a position of encouragement in devotional service. And ultimately, this is what the Guru tries to do. They try to encourage us in spiritual life in all situations. Agni Dev Prabhu mentioned this. I'm paraphrasing what he says, that the distance we have traveled in our journey in the material realm, the distance we have traveled before coming to this point of meeting our spiritual master, of meeting Srila Prabhupada, of beginning devotional service, is far, far greater than the distance we have to go back. We've traveled the biggest part of the journey again, but we still have to be patient. We still have to endure. We still have to be enthusiastic. It's good to hanker for the end. We would think, oh, I'm practicing so long, when is it gonna come? When will I see Krishna? No. Have a little more patience. You've traveled the furthest distance already. You have a little more to go. Don't get impatient now. Prabhupada says in the purport that, the Vedic process is that people begin devotional practice at the end of life. Why do people wait until they're older to start practicing? If you think about it. That's because when old age comes, material happiness is impossible. Because why? Your body can't support it anymore. So you have no other choice but to engage in devotional, in spiritual God realization. That's when they take up the process of spiritual realization. And then at that age, they think, oh, this is actually what I should have been doing all along. Why did I waste my life? I should have been doing this when I was young. If you speak to, older devotees, they say that, why didn't I do this sooner? I should have joined sooner. Srila Prabhupada's favorite bhajan, Hari Hari Bifale Janama Goenu. The translation of the first verse is, Oh Lord Hari, I have spent my life uselessly. Having obtained a human birth and having not worshipped Radha and Krishna, I have knowingly drunk poison. So they feel like that, oh, actually I spent my life uselessly. I should have done this sooner. But Prabhupada is very encouraging in this purport. Prabhupada says that you don't have to wait that long to serve Krishna, to engage in devotional service. You can engage in devotional service from any point in life. Any point in life. And that again, atato brahma jigyasa. Now is the time to inquire about the absolute truth. And the other saying of the Vedanta Sutra, Jivasya Tattva Jignasa, that it is the duty of the living entity to inquire about the absolute truth. You only have a few years in life, and life goes so fast. Before you know it, the week is over. Before you know it, the month is over, the year is over, a decade is gone, 20, 30 years are gone in the blink of an eye. Life goes so fast. Indradumna Swami gave an example that he was at an airport waiting for his connecting flight, and he had 4 or 5 hours before the flight. So he needed to buy a gift for someone. So he was browsing through all of the shops. What can he buy? And he was just, thinking, okay, I would like some water, some this and that. And he's browsing. He missed his flight. He got so engrossed in looking at everything and anything, finding a gift, finding water, he missed his flight. And then he walked to the check-in, and they were like, this flight departed 2 hours ago, where were you? So this distraction, we have to apply this in our life. Don't get distracted. Don't get distracted. And this is why we have the spiritual master. The spiritual master is constantly reminding us, don't get distracted. What is the spiritual master telling us? This is mentioned in the Rig Veda, that do not stay in illusion, go to reality. Do not stay in darkness, go to the light. Don't keep on taking material bodies, become immortal. We know that the soul is immortal. This is also Prahlad Maharaj's encouragement when he speaks to his classmates. This is his encouragement, that start when you're young. Don't wait until you're old, start now. Because even though the human form of life is temporary, it is very meaningful. It gives us the opportunity to develop ourselves spiritually. And why do they emphasize 5 years old? 5 years old, start when you're 5 years old. Because that is when the intelligence of a child begins to develop. Before that, there isn't much intelligence, there's more dependence. But once they reach the age of 5, cognitively, intelligence starts to develop. And this is when we should begin seriously encouraging and teaching Krishna consciousness. Because even the slightest bit of sincere devotional service will set you up for complete perfection. The slightest bit of sincere devotional service starts that process, and it's like a domino effect. Once you knock that first one off, they all go. Once you turn towards Krishna, everything else starts falling in place. There's this saying, right? Don't put off till tomorrow what you can do today. Because why? Especially in the material world, there might not be a tomorrow for us. I could give this lecture and while walking out of the temple room, drop dead. Don't put off till tomorrow what you can do today. If you can think of Krishna today, think of him today. Sankaracharya started, if you read the life story of Sankaracharya, when he was 2, he could fluently read and write Sanskrit. 2. When he was 4, he had read all of the Vedas. When he was 12, he took sannyas. Sakaracharya. So why do we take the spiritual life young? Because it will give us the strength for everything that the material world and Maya will throw at us. And Maya doesn't wait until you're an adult to start throwing things at you. She starts immediately, right? So start this process when you're young. Because when you're young, you can absorb the knowledge of bhakti much more easier than when you're older. And when you absorb it in your youth, when you're old, you draw on your absorption. It's not that you start when you're old trying to absorb. No. It's never too late. But then obviously, on the other hand, it's never too late to start Krishna consciousness. We see this, the pastime of Ajamil. He began some spiritual journey, but then, he fell down. And at literally the last moment of his life, he began his spiritual practice by calling for Narayan. He wasn't even calling for the Lord. He was calling for his son, who was named Narayan. But literally at that split moment that it was all going to end, he started his spiritual life. And Krishna was like, yeah, I saw that. Let's begin. So in this way, it is the duty of a genuine guru to test the disciple. But these tests are not to discourage us in any way. They are to actually see if we can elevate our consciousness. Because if we want the taste of Krishna, we have to pass the test. But of course, we are part and parcel of Krishna, minute part and parcel. So yes, we do have some right to taste his love, to taste his sincerity and have a relationship with him. But obviously, we are covered by selfish motivation. But going through the tests will qualify us in this way to practice. But then also, there are some cases where the disciple does not listen to the guru. We see this in the Bhagavatam, Bali Maharaj and Sukracharya. Bali rejected the order of his guru, but that was because the Supreme Personality of Godhead was on the opposite side, so that is fine. The 4 Kumaras rejected the order of Brahma to have children. They said no, they would like to be lifelong brahmacharis and dedicate themselves in this way. So yeah, there are some cases where the guru is rejected. But a genuine guru will test your determination in bhakti. Bhaktisiddhanta is a classic example when he approached Srila Gaura Das Babaji Maharaj for shelter. And he rejected him and said no a few times just to see how sincere he is. But as Vaishnavas, we have a 3-point check. That is sadhana, seva, and sadachar. Sadhana is your daily practice of Krishna consciousness. Seva, obviously, the service you're doing. And sadachar, what is your conduct, what is your attitude. You can have very good sadhana, but if you don't engage in service and have a good conduct with other devotees, what is the use of your sadhana? You can do a lot of service, but if you don't have a good attitude, and if you don't have a strong sadhana, what's the basis of your service? And you can have the best attitude and the best understand it, but if you don't engage in service or cultivate a personal relationship with Krishna, what is the point? So the guru is testing your determination to see that a disciple should have all 3, sadhana, seva, and sadachar. So we see from the example of Dhruva Maharaj, it is very possible to perfect our lives in a short period of time. Dhruva Maharaj did it in 6 months through a very intense austerity that was obviously focused on the Lord. So we see that devotees who are serious do not wait for any gradual process of purification. They will start now. And this is why Narada is testing him to say that you should start now, don't start later. The path of mystic yoga in the previous verse, Narada is saying it's very difficult, that many people have tried, they have failed. There's a very high failure rate on this process of Ashtanga yoga. So don't waste your time, right? Practice now. We must practice with some urgency. And those who are serious will not wait at all. We see the example of Prahlad Maharaj. He started his practice in the womb of his mother. That while Hiranyakashipu was terrorizing the demons, his mother Kayadu was in the ashram of Narada, and she listened to his instructions, and Prahlad Maharaj in the womb began hearing. So he began in the womb. Because who knows if we will live to old age? We don't know that. So, as Prabhupada says, give your best years to Krishna consciousness. Why would you want to give the years of your life where you may not see or you may not hear? You may have some other material difficulty that will impede the ability to hear Krishna, to see Krishna. No. We should give the best years of our life to Krishna. I will stop there. Any corrections, comments, chastisements? No. Grantaraj of Jai Prabhu, give him the mic.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
You saying about Prahlad, Dhruva's determination to follow the instruction of Narad, but initially it was all motivated by material desire. Mm-hmm. He had that material, like a Sakam Bhakta, he was aspiring for some material. He's only got purified when he saw the Lord, but it was a long journey that way. Yeah. So, and sometimes we are motivated like that also, by some desire to fulfill. And most people who are successful materially, they are determined by some desire. Yeah. And sometimes the desire can overcome us, or it can drown us. But fortunate enough, we come to Krishna consciousness. Although we have all these desires, we may have material aspirations, but somehow Krishna, he purifies us from that. Like Dhruva, he eventually got purified. Yeah. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Yeah, I guess even covered bhakti is better than no bhakti at all. And that's where mercy comes in, that even though we don't deserve it and we're covered, Krishna will reward us far more than we can imagine, as long as we keep our faith strong. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanande